we lived in the times of artificial stupidity. Most of the interaction we had with computers was, oh, computer says no, but for no reason, or you don't know why the computer says no.
Yeah.
And this is why we're advocating for using integrated systems like ours, because you have all the data in the same place. And when you re-engineer your business processes and the underlying data sets, then you have a clean base to enable artificial intelligence.
I have to say, this is probably one of the most significant guests we've ever had on. SAP are just one of the most influential tech companies in the world, or maybe even one of the most influential companies in the world, depending on which way you look at it. I was very privileged to interview the CFO for the UK and Ireland region, Renaud Heyd. We talked about many things. We cleared up once and for all whether it's called SAP or SAP, which was very interesting, but we also talked about the evolving role of the CFO, why SAP are moving their customers into the cloud, how they justify that, and how that transformation is going. We also took apart how ready organizations are for AI technology and the wave of AI adoption, which is coming up over the next couple of years. Plus, we discussed how SAP help developing nations and how help their existing customers be more mindful of their carbon footprint score, and much, much more. It doesn't really get much bigger than this. It was a super authentic conversation. Renaud was very open, very candid, and spoke passionately from the heart, which is what the Tech Leaders podcast is all about. It is Renaud Heyd. Renaud, I'm so glad that you agreed to do this. Thank you for coming on the Tech Leaders podcast. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thank you very much for asking. I hope you're doing great too.
Yeah, fantastic. We've got a lot to talk about today. Been really excited to speak with you. But I think the best place to start on the Tech Leaders podcast is our opening question in all of our episodes. What does good leadership mean to you, Renaud?
I may offer a different answer than the one you usually hear. To me, a leader and a good leader starts with being the leader of your own life. And this is something that I've experienced that really helped me by knowing my values, my motives, and my strengths. And this is helping me being a leader of my own life. And it helped me make all the decisions in life much easier. And I use that as a compass. And I believe that when you're clear on who you are, you have your self-awareness, and you are able to lead your life with purpose, it's much easier to lead others, because then you're genuine and true, and people can read in the way you behave and the decisions you make.
That is fantastic. I think that is very similar to the philosophy of Stoicism and focusing on what's in your control, doing the basics well, sort of thing. Focusing on things that are directly in your control in your everyday life. I think start with the basics and everything else will come from there. I think that's a brilliant answer. Going back to basics answer, Renaud, I love that. So, I want to jump straight in, okay? Your career, you've had a fantastic career. Some of the listeners who may not be familiar with yourself. So could you give the listeners a little bit of an introduction to yourself, and also in terms of your current role and what your responsibility is in your current role?
Yes, so I was born and raised in France. Then I graduated in Glasgow, Scotland. And from there, I started as a young graduate at SAP in Waldorf, Germany. And I'm still working for the same company 25 years ago. But it all started differently. Actually, when I was 15, I decided that I wanted to be independent. And I started a course to learn a vocation, to learn a job and be independent in my life. And I think that was really helpful for me, because it gave me a purpose also and a meaning. And I can only be grateful for the people who helped me back then, because it has paved the way for my future. And within SAP, so when I joined the corporate office, and very quickly I wanted to discover more and get involved in different topics. So I was involved in multiple business areas on group level. And from there, I decided it was time to get closer to the shield. So I took on the role of a regional controller for the region EMEA. And after a while, I took the same role for global operations. Then I moved to Belgium to be responsible for finance in Belgium and Luxembourg as the CFO. From there, I became a group CFO of multiple global organizations, among which the global partner organization of SAP, which really was an eye-opener about the ecosystem around SAP. So SAP is not only an organization, it's also surrounded by thousands of partners who built this ecosystem. And I was then responsible for leading finance for an integrated cloud business, which helped me learn about the cloud mechanics and how to make a cloud business successful. And 6 years ago, I moved to the UK, and I did that in Palo Alto, by the way. Of course, being able to experience innovation at the heart of it and be surrounded by software engineers, professors from Stanford really helped me build a better picture of what technology holds for the future.
What was it like working in the US, especially the west coast of the US in Palo Alto, from a cultural standpoint? I'm not talking about just living in the country. I'm talking about from the culture of SAP in the US. Is it different, or have they managed to retain their European culture in the US? Because I know SAP was set up by a bunch of guys who worked for IBM, wasn't it? So it was there's an American element to it anyway. But how would you describe the difference in culture between the US and the European?
So I'm glad that you talk about culture, because this is really what drives me. I've been living in more than 6 countries so far. And living in the US was one of my objectives, because spending vacation in the country is one thing. Living as a local for a long period of time is a completely different thing. And I wanted to understand the American mentality. And you can only do that when you are completely immersed in it and you are treated as a local. I was always on local contracts, so I experienced the life of an American.
Sure.
And so I would say that the beauty of SAP is that we can combine the multiple cultures. So of course, we have the German engineering side that is very strong, but it's combined with the entrepreneurship from the US, the art of communication, and marketing and branding. And in Palo Alto, it's a melting pot of cultures. In the Silicon Valley, 70% of the people were not born in the US. So you can't really talk about an American culture, but it's a complete melting pot. And I think this is what makes it so successful, is that everybody comes with their own culture, vision, assets, and make it work collectively.
It sounds like you took a lot from that experience. So if I was to put you on the spot then, Renaud, and ask you about SAP in terms of the culture of SAP.
I told you I've been with the company for 25 years, and that was never my plan. I never imagined or considered that I could stay so long.
That tells you everything you need to know, really, doesn't it? You've never thought of leaving.
And the reason is the culture and the people. And of course, the opportunities are received. And I'm someone who is very curious, someone who likes to learn and progress and grow. And I did that through the people of the organization and the extreme openness that you can find here. Also, I'm a very genuine person and authentic. And I like the fact that I can be who I am without hiding any part of my personality. And you don't have to pretend.
This episode was brought to you by Be Digital. Be Digital support leadership teams to optimize cost and get more out of technology investments. Be Digital and the team have unrivaled expertise with technology license management and data remediation, and are therefore perfectly positioned to help prepare organizations for AI technology capability. And on the last point, Be Digital have just developed a cutting-edge AI readiness assessment, which provides tech leaders with a platform they need to make well-informed decisions about AI adoption strategy in 2024 and beyond. Go to bedigitaluk.com to find out more and get in touch. Let's maybe use this opportunity then to talk about your current role, and especially the role of a CFO, okay? So I'm really keen to get your take on that. But the role of a CFO, a lot of people is perceived as being very left-brain orientated, spreadsheets, numbers, et cetera, I understand that the role is evolving into more of a right and left brain, and is a lot more of a people element, the mentoring and the stuff that you talk about. What does a typical day look like for you, Renaud, right now in your current role?
I told you I've been in the role for 6 years, and I usually don't stay that long on the role because I get bored and I think that I've seen it all. The role has evolved a lot, and there is a say that you can either change roles or change the role. And I decided to change the role.
I like that.
So as you said, when I started, it was really the left brain. I was responsible for running finance and I was managing people. I was managing a very large finance organization. And we went
Yeah.
through a finance transformation journey where we reorganized. And out of the 100 people who are touching my accounts, none of them report to me now. So it's a big revolution for me because I moved from a role of being mostly a manager and a little bit of a leader to
Yeah.
be a complete leader and a leader without authority to get my finance organization run smoothly, but also be a thought leader for my business partners, for customers and partners. The typical day is, I would say, in proportion, it would probably be 40% statutory roles, so really taking care of finance activities, core finance activities, and 60% being dedicated to conversations, meetings, review, business appraisals for internal matters, and then probably 1 to 2 days a week on the road meeting customers and partners.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Which part of the role gives you the most satisfaction, Renaud? What do you enjoy most?
I like the combination. I sometimes
Yeah.
say that customers can be like alcohol. It can be very exciting in small quantities, but could give me a headache in big quantities. That's why I'm not embracing a career in sales because I don't think that would be the right thing for me. But I tremendously enjoy the interaction with customers, and especially when I can inspire customers who are a bit lagging behind us in terms of business and finance transformation to embrace this, to embrace a digital transformation, for example. It can be very daunting. And when you are responsible for a large organization, you want to take calculate risks before you embark on a transformation journey. And I think
Yeah.
by being able to share the SAP's experience in a very honest way, in a very candid way, it helps people gain more confidence that they can achieve that too.
Sure, absolutely. So I have to ask you this, Renaud. You were the CFO of a different region previously, Belgium and Luxembourg. I'm sure a very big region for SAPs, a lot of big enterprise customers there and things. You're now the CFO of the UK and Ireland region. What's the biggest difference in terms of the UK and Ireland marketplace from the Belgium and Luxembourg marketplace? How does their role and the region differ in your experience?
I would say the scale for first of all, but also intimacy. Belgium and Luxembourg is a relatively small market, and it's a bit like a village. Everybody knows each other. So it's very
All right, yeah.
important. It's very important that you maintain your brand, and the intimacy is extremely important because your business contacts will move from company A, B, C, from partner A to partner B to partner C. So when I talk about ecosystem, it includes the customers, and it's a broad family where each member is keeping in touch. So the promises that you make, you need to deliver. That was my learning, that you need to act as a business partner, as a strategic business partner, and whatever you promise that the technology can do, all the business outcomes that you promise, you need to help the customer deliver on that. And this is why I kept that in mind, that it's very important to create this intimacy. So when I came to the UK, the previous CFO didn't have this intimacy with the customer CFOs and the partners. And that's the first thing I triggered, is creating a SAP customer CFO network so that I can bring this community together and share best practices, and that I can understand what is the expectation from the customer, from our technology, and
Yeah.
checking on that, how we're doing. And this is most important in the cloud as we transition from a legacy business model to software as a service. And in software as a service, you've got software. This is what we do best, but also service. And this is where we need to excel, because
Yeah.
customers will never renew a cloud service if they are not delighted and if they didn't get the business outcomes they expected. So I see my role as being the gauge of that, checking with the customers how we're doing. Is our technology, is our cloud solution really helping you achieve your business outcomes?
So you talk about obviously the transformation, moving your customers from the traditional on-premise ERP into a cloud-based product. Yeah. How has that transition gone for your customers? I know not all of them have moved over. How is that transition going? And how do you sell them that sort of idea of having a cloud-based solution? What are the benefits for your customers in terms of moving over to this new cloud product?
I would say that the first benefit is innovation, because in the software industry, all the innovation goes into the cloud. It wouldn't make much sense for SAP to continue investing in the legacy on-premise software solutions. So if you want to keep up with innovation, cloud is probably the best option for you. Also, the pace of adoption. In the on-premise world, customers were very often stuck with very old versions of the software. And for them, moving from one version to the next, or from one release to the next, was extremely painful and at times expensive. While in the cloud, if you keep the core clean, as we say, that means that if you don't create too much monsters around the core solution that we provide, then we automatically push the latest innovation in your solution. So you might wake up in the morning noticing that a new functionality has been added to the business process you run in our solution. And this is exactly what we want, that seamless adoption of technology. And that's something that can only be achieved in the cloud. Then let me use a buzzword, AI. I promise I won't use it too much in this podcast, but I have to.
But I may, Renaud. So apologies in advance. Go for it.
AI is based on data.
Sure.
And the data, you can only use AI if the data is in the cloud, because this is why it gets processed and analyzed. And this is why you move your data into the cloud, where you can leverage AI combined with the latest innovation that is pushed. But also, I would also challenge the customer saying, what do you want? Do you want to have your own resources managing data centers and a technical infrastructure and networks and firewalls and all of that? Or you want your resources to be focused on your core business, which might be producing cars or delivering a banking service or providing water to a city? And this is the decision that CFOs have to make. Where do I put my resources? Do I continue to put more resources in IT because it gets more and more complex, so you have more and more resources in IT, or I want to put them in my core business? Our value proposition is to say, we take care of everything. Come as you are, come with what you have. We'll take responsibility of that, hosting it on our own infrastructure and managing it with our experts, but also securing it, making it safe. Cybercrime is a big threat for many organizations.
Oh, yes.
An organization, private organization or public organization, can only have so many experts in cybercrime or in cybersecurity, while SAP is employed hundreds of them and the best in the world, because we attract the best experts in the world. And we do it at scale. We protect thousands of customers on our data centers rather than you being just on your own. And we do that 24/7, 365 days a year. So I think these would be the three main reasons why customers should choose to move to the cloud: is for leveraging AI, safety, security, and innovation.
So look, I don't know, and apologies if this is a bit of a stupid question, but I'm going to ask you anyway because I think it's fascinating. Okay, I understand that an enormous amount of the world's food supply chain is run through your products. Okay. The data. I'm just using food as an example. This obviously there's other examples, but I think I read 80 or 85% of the world's food supply chain data is run through SAP. Maybe less, maybe more, but we're talking big numbers nonetheless. Do you work with your customers to achieve efficiency, or once you have delivered, once they are working with your product, because you obviously see their data, do you basically work with them for them to become more efficient, to save money on licensing costs? I'm not sure, but and obviously just basically feed more people and just do good for society. Did you point efficiency out to your customers, or is it totally their responsibility once they purchase your product?
Yeah. Thanks for raising the fact that most of the world transactions go through an SAP system. We claim that at least 70% of the world transactions, not only for food, but any type of transactions, go through an SAP system. So it's an honor. We are proud of that, but it's also a responsibility. We need to make sure that this is safe, and we have to make sure that this is serving a purpose. And beyond food, for any business, the purpose of SAP is to help the world run better and improves people's life. This is also a reason why I'm with the company for so long, because it relates, it resonates with my own values.
Yeah.
But the purpose is to make the world run better. This is all we do, and this is what we've been doing for 50 years. This is why the software is designed. It's designed to improve every business process in an organization. And yes, when a customer is deploying our solutions, using it, they build up the data. They design processes that are optimal. And then we offer a solution that is called Signavio. It's business process intelligence. And this is a solution that is literally mapping all your processes, checking the efficiency of it, and benchmarking it. Because as you said, we have access to probably 70% of the business players in the world. So this information in the cloud is anonymized, but can be used for benchmarking purposes. So our customers can map their processes in Signavio and then benchmark it with their peer group. And they can see where the gaps are and how much efficiency gains they could generate by fixing their processes. And then they can simulate this process in a kind of digital twin organization to simulate what the would-be process would deliver before implementing it.
For people who are not familiar with digital twin and that term, you're talking about creating a virtual environment for testing purposes. Is that
yes? It's exactly yes. It's creating a virtual company that mirrors your actual company using all the data that you have available in the system, and this is where you can input the new process and see what the output would be on the entire performance of your organization.
In terms of developing nations, okay, how much of a footprint do SAP have in developing nations in terms of trying to improve supply chain and improve generally how efficient countries are with their data?
Yeah, very much so. This is probably a big differentiator between SAP and its competitors. We are not an American company. So although the American market is, of course, crucial for us, from the get-go, we've been present in almost every country in the world. And so our footprint is already very strong in Asia, in Africa, so in Middle East. And yes, the adoption is very high, but you have to approach it in a different way. It has to be easier to consume. So for example, we would mostly use mobile applications because in certain places you don't have the infrastructure to have mainframe systems or cloud computing. But through a very good network of 5G, you can push solutions through mobile devices. So we have the example of female farmers who are cultivating plants that they can negotiate and sell via the app. And you don't need to read because it's all through icons. And I think this is where technology can be a game changer when you make it accessible to everyone. Technology shouldn't be only for people who have a PhD in computer science. You should simplify the life of everyone without any IT knowledge.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's quite astonishing how much of a footprint and how influential in terms of helping countries improve their supply chain with critical infrastructure and food and so on and so forth. It's fascinating to hear you talk about it. You mentioned AI, Renaud, okay? And inevitably, I did promise you I wanted to bring it up. So let's maybe talk about this for a minute, okay? How ready are your customers for AI capability? And I'm asking you this in relation to data. How easy is it going to be for your customers to benefit from AI capability and large language models? Are you talking to your customers about this stuff at the moment? What kind of AI conversations are you having?
Right, yeah, it's in every conversation. And we lived in the times of artificial stupidity. Yeah. Most of the interaction we had with computers was, oh, computer says no, but for no reason, or you don't know why the computer says no.
Yeah.
Try to buy a train ticket from an automatic dispenser. Yeah, it's very difficult. Even I do it very often. I still struggle with getting the right train ticket with the right price. So it shows that we're not there yet. And what makes the big difference is the data underlying artificial intelligence. So this is the big topic. And you said how ready our customers. This is a drive to the cloud because they realize that currently their data set is not well managed, not well governed, is inconsistent because they use multiple systems which don't talk to each other. There is no standardization of the data, no harmonization of the data. So a customer could be reflected in multiple systems with multiple names, multiple numbers. A customer could be a supplier, but you will know. So it would be two different entities, although it's only one. So you're right that this is the main issue right now, is creating this foundation. And this is why we're advocating for using integrated systems like ours, because you have all the data in the same place. And when you re-engineer your business processes and the underlying data sets, then you have a clean base to enable artificial intelligence.
Yeah, sure. What products, SAP products, have an AI element at the moment, and what products are you potentially going to develop to basically improve the AI capability within your customers or within the organization? You know what I mean? What sort of from a product standpoint, what are you actually doing right now?
Two things. First of all, we keep on doing what we've done best for 50 years, which is bringing intelligence in business processes. And so this is nothing new for SAP. We've been doing it for, again, 5 decades, making business processes more intelligent through clever automation. And as you said, most of the logistic chain in the world, supply chain in the world, is managed through an SAP system for a reason. Is because it offers the flexibility, the adaptability to move goods around in record times, readjust manufacturing and sourcing. So this is anyway something that we do, and it's embedded in everything that end users are touching. And this is how we drive adoption of artificial intelligence, is by improving every functionality of the software by adding AI capabilities to it, so that customers don't have to say, oh, I need to buy a new module of AI. No, you don't have to buy a new module of AI. You just upgrade to the latest version of the software that will embed AI in everything you touch. So I give you an example. I work in finance, account reconciliations. This is something that will benefit greatly from artificial intelligence, being able to match invoices and payments. And it won't be an additional product that companies will have to license. It's just simply something that a collector will enjoy more and more as we improve the capabilities of AI. And every day it will be easier for the collector to reconcile invoices and payments, and freeing up time to engage with customers who are raising a dispute case, for example.
Yeah, sure.
Now, on top of that, I agree with you. We need to add something more, which is more the intuitive part of AI. We are all using ChatGPT. Maybe the question you're asking me came straight from ChatGPT. Who knows?
I'm real, I can assure you of that. But yeah, I use ChatGPT all the time for research purposes, so it could well have. Yeah, you're right. But
we all do, and why wouldn't we? But jokes aside, you want to have the same capabilities when you interact with an SAP system. So ultimately, what I want as a CFO is to be able to say, hey, SAP, show me the performance of my division in Ireland with mid-market customers for the HR solution, and show me that in a diagram in black and white because I'm colorblind. This is what I expect. This is the future. This is how people should interact. It's not right now. People need to have access to reporting. They need to know which report to run. They need to understand what they are getting. And it's displayed in a way that doesn't talk to everyone. Some people can't do with numbers, but they are very visual. They can see graph and understand immediately. This is where I expect artificial intelligence to help. Or, hey, SAP, I'm the cash collector, and I need to raise a dispute case for my customer, McDonald's, regarding their cloud invoice. And the right screen will show up, and the employee will just have to enter the content or the details of the dispute. Or I'm an account executive. Hey, SAP, I need to provide an offer to customer XYZ for that solution using the terms and conditions that have already been negotiated last year.
Yeah.
So at SAP, we talk about augmented humanity. Again, remember, our vision is to improve people's life, not only to make the world run better, but also to improve people's lives.
Yeah.
And for us, artificial intelligence is a way to augment humanity, go beyond our physical and intellectual limits. Yeah, we only have 8 to 10 hours per day to work.
Yeah.
We need to sleep, and we all have our intellectual limitations because of our education, our capabilities. With artificial intelligence, we can break these limits. We can gain skills that we couldn't have before. We can gain productivity that we didn't have before. We can be creative instead of executing. And this is what is helping me in my role. More and more of the transactional execution tasks are automated, either because we run SAP or because I'm using ChatGPT and other things, which gives me more time to be creative, to innovate, to learn, to read. So I'm more educated about how the world runs and how I can adjust the strategy of our organization accordingly.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Some really good points there. I think a lot of people are quite concerned about AI replacing many jobs and new jobs not being created quick enough and therefore displacing many workers. Do you have any thoughts on this, Renaud? Do you think, especially your customers and other organizations within the industries that you operate, do you see over the next 5 to 10 years possibly people being replaced by AI? And what types of jobs do you think could replace the jobs that will be replaced, if that makes sense? What new jobs will be created, and how do you see this playing out?
Yeah. So I don't see AI replacing people. I see AI replacing tasks. So yes, a lot of tasks will be taken over by AI. Thanks God. The sooner the better, please, because this is usually the things that we don't like doing. And I think there are a lot of people who are currently left out of the market because of the limitations that I've mentioned. A lot of people are not used to the full extent of their potential because of certain limitations that are imposed on them. Not everyone was lucky enough to be born in a country with higher education and have access to this. Not everybody is in a good health. And I think with artificial intelligence, we'll be able to tap on a much wider scope of resources because they will be supported by AI to achieve more than what they were originally meant to.
Do you know, obviously, you've had a very successful career in finance, and I'm sure you've got a long way to go as well. But I think up until now, at least, if you were giving some advice to someone, maybe a young, or maybe not a young, but someone who's graduated in the world of finance and knowing what you know about the development of AI, what sort of advice would you give to someone getting into the finance space now? Because obviously, as many parts of a finance role and bookkeeping is going to be completely automated soon, what skills do they need to focus on honing to become an asset, to become a commodity in the jobs market over the next 5, 10, 15 years?
That's my thinking right now is how do I stay relevant? Why would a company, big SAP or any other one, want to employ me and pay me well? Why? I need to provide a value proposition to those organizations. And it's clearly not based on my technical knowledge. ChatGPT knows much more than I do. But it's probably for doing all the things that a computer can't do. So I spoke about intimacy. Well, it's building trust. So how do you build trust? How do you stay curious? How do you anticipate? How are you able to comprehend the wider world? And how do you act accordingly? A few years ago, I fulfilled a goal in my life. It was to become a pilot. I always dreamt of becoming a pilot. And as a finance person, I'm someone who likes to have all the facts and be sure that I make no mistakes. So my decision making might be a bit slow at time or was slow at time. And I thought that learning to be a pilot would help me be a better leader and a better CFO. And in fact, it did rewire my brain. And I will tell you why. It's because when you fly a plane, you have to do 3 things at the same time. You need to aviate, it's control the plane, it's navigate, know where you are and where you're heading to, and communicate. Talk to ATC, talk to the other pilots, what you're all about. And do it at the same time at high speed. And this is exactly what a leader has to do. A leader needs to be in control, but also needs to be aware of its environment. So where am I? Where am I heading to? what are the multiple routes that are possible, because sometimes ATC calls you and say, you can't go ahead. You need to change your route. So in seconds, you need to be able to trace a new route and communicate, always communicate. Whatever you do, say it and say it simply. You don't make a keynote when you are up there. You just use the fewer words to tell where you are, who you are, and what you're doing. And I think this is a lesson that I would recommend everybody to do is to learn to manage that. Know your environment, know yourself, know who you are and where you operate, and then be in control and communicate about it. And I don't think that AI would be able to make those three things together.
Sure.
We will be more and more people organizations. SAP is a people organization. I always say on my balance sheet, my most important asset is missing. It's my people. It's because the people create the innovation and the people deliver the service to the customers. So for us, attracting talents is very important, and to lead them to great success is key. So I encourage people who are now in universities to develop those skills.
That's fantastic. I love that pilot analogy. How long have you been flying for, Renaud?
7 years.
Oh, wow. Okay. Do you fly light aircraft then, or?
Oh, yeah, the Cessna, the smallest one.
Yeah.
But you get all the thrill.
Oh, absolutely. The smaller ones are probably more fun, aren't they? But yeah. No, that was fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that. Just a couple of questions to bring this to a conclusion then. Just in terms of yourself, you're a very busy individual with obviously a high pressure job, and obviously you've got interests outside of work as well. How do you stay productive, and how do you achieve balance in your life?
Yeah, that's also something I learned quite early in my life, because I was supporting global leaders, board members, people like that. So I could observe how they were operating, and I draw my own lessons out of it. And for me, it's making every minute of your life count. I think you can be very ambitious and you can have very ambitious goals and sacrifice a lot to achieve that. And it's great, and I respect that. But remember that life is short. So I don't make much compromises. So for example, in my professional life, I always pick roles that passionate me, that motivate me every morning when I wake up. If that wouldn't be the case, I would either change role or change the role. And because again, life is too short. We spend 10 hours, 12 hours a day working. It has to be fulfilling. It has to make us proud. Another thing is, as a child, I was glued to the tube. I was watching television. Television was my nanny. It was good and it was bad. But when I turned 25, I decided to unplug. And I haven't watched television ever since. So more than half of my life, I haven't watched any program on television. And I think it's good to eliminate the time wasters in your life. And social media is one. I consume social media, but it's 10 minutes a day. And I don't watch television. It's freeing up a lot of time, of spare time for sport. I think health is wealth, for reading, and for social interactions.
Sure.
We are human. What makes a difference from the rest of the species is our social interactions.
Yeah, sure.
And there is so much more we can learn and enjoy with people than what we can ever see on television. How do I invest that minute? What will this minute bring to me?
Sure.
And it's not selfish, because it's not only to me, it's also to others. How can I be a better person to others? How can I give back? The time I don't sit in front of television, how can I give back to someone?
I love that. So yeah, I wanted to ask you, in terms of technology innovation in the world right now, but maybe stuff that SAP are talking about, what are you most excited about in terms of technology innovation?
So there's so much SAP is working on that excites me.
Yeah. What's the number one?
But the number one for me personally, it's sustainability. Again, I'm with SAP because I want to improve people's lives. I'm not a surgeon. I can't save lives. I'm not a firefighter. I can't save lives. But as a finance professional, I can make SAP more efficient, more profitable, so that we can invest in technology that is changing lives of people. And sustainability is probably where I see SAP being the strongest change agent. We have to act fast. And we spoke about supply chain, but sustainability is not only about environment, it's also about social equality, for example. It's about people and how we can support the United Nations sustainability goals. It's beyond just the environment. It's mostly about people and governance. And this is what I found really fantastic. Just on the environment, the fact that we introduced the green ledger, it's basically creating a new currency. So far, almost since economy has been created, since people started to trade, money was the only yardstick to evaluate investments, to appraise goods and services.
Medium of exchange, yeah?
Yes. Now we're introducing CO2 as a new currency. And consumers will want to know what is the CO2 footprint of my runners? What is the CO2 footprint of my steak? And this is what SAP is enabling, because all the transactions are going through an SAP system. We can just, alongside the financial value, record the CO2 footprint of it. And so far, most of the companies are calculating their footprint based on aggregates.
Yeah.
They know their total energy bill. They know the total number of miles that the lorries are driving. But they can't do this on traditional level. That's what we can do. So just imagine that level of granularity that we are offering to businesses and all organizations to understand their footprint, identify where their footprint is the biggest, where they can move the needle the fastest. I found that really exciting. And we CFOs, we have a leading role to play in that, because we know how to be change agents. First of all, I want to believe that we have the credibility. So when we talk about numbers, when we talk about priorities, people listen. Also, we are the people who ultimately validate investments. And now CFOs have a very strong influence by saying, I won't invest in this investment or in this asset because the CO2 footprint is too high. Come with a better option. Fix the process so the CO2 footprint will be lower, and then I will invest in it.
Sure.
And we also have the methodology, improving operation efficiency, something we've been doing forever. So improving the CO2 efficiency is just another thing we can do.
Yeah, sure.
And I think we spoke about being relevant as finance professionals. That's exactly where I see my future. I see my future as a change agent, helping the organization grasp the idea of change, why we need to transform, become more sustainable, and help prioritize how to get there with a concrete plan of action.
It's such a crucial part of leadership these days, isn't it? Is to create an environment where change is possible and change is executed well. And I think that's such a big part of being a CFO these days, isn't it? So, Renaud, looking back on your career, it was a similar question earlier about someone coming into the finance sector at this time. But I want to basically ask you a similar question, but based on yourself. If you were to give that guy who joined SAP all them years ago a piece of advice, what would you say to your 21-year-old self?
If I would be a 21-year-old today, I would be quite anxious, because we live in a VUCA world. When I grew up, war was reducing everywhere in the world. Peace was becoming common practice everywhere. And you have the feeling of everything is getting better and better. People were healthier. We were enjoying better living conditions. We had career. Technology was seen as a positive thing.
Sure.
Now I think that the generation that is coming now on the market is feeling a bit insecure and anxious. My advice would be confident and be curious. So be confident, because you can make a change. We can all make a change, and we want to be part of that change. That's what I try to do through SAP and through my personal engagement, is to be part of the change. And the positive that is. We have a lot of young colleagues joining us. We have more than 70 students on the placement program here at SAP. We have 12 students on apprenticeship. These young people are amazing. We just blown away by what they can bring, not only what they have learned in university, but who they are and their abilities. So I would say be confident. Yes, you can succeed. Yes, there is a future for you. And you know what? The good news is the future that you will build yourself. You can blame us for all the wrong thing we've done, but now we give you the keys and it's your turn to fix it. And be curious. Learn from others as much as you can. And especially, this something that helped me a lot is surround yourself with the best role models. and learn
Yeah.
from them. Sometimes you need to be ruthless. Yeah? Not everybody deserves to be your friend. Sorry
Yeah,
to
of
say
course.
that, but some people need to go. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying that you need to create a network just for the purpose of being successful, but there are generally great people around you who can be excellent role models and be an inspiration for you.
That's fantastic. I love that. I love how you place so much emphasis on curiosity, Renaud. I feel very much the same way. I feel like curiosity is a gift. And I don't know about yourself, but when I have felt like I'm approaching any level of burnout, I know this. The biggest sign of burnout for me is when I lose my curiosity. Do you know what I mean? That's
Yes.
my curiosity drops away. And at that point, I know I need a break. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, it's such an important thing. And that's the sort of the fuel behind learning and improving and developing, isn't it? Is just having this infinite curiosity. No, I absolutely love that.
If I can just
Go
comment
for it.
on that, I think it was easier to be curious when I was 21 than now, because there was not such abundance of information. And now there is so much information out there that being curious might mean that you would scroll the whole day. There would be always new content pushed to you. So I'm more and more thinking about focused curiosity. So focus on the things that you want to be curious about and eliminate the noise. All the rest that might be interesting as an entertainment, but wouldn't make you more clever. So
Yeah.
I think that's a challenge that new generations have to deal with that I didn't have to deal with. So I think chosen and focused curiosity is important. And that's why I like reading, because you decide to read a book and you decide to read the book end to end rather than scrolling, being on the internet and checking
And
20
social media.
things that are
Yeah.
probably not adding up much to your knowledge.
Yeah, for sure. I'm glad you brought up reading, Renaud, because we always finish on this question. What book has inspired you? Maybe what's your favorite book, or maybe you could choose a book that's inspired you recently. But what book would you recommend to the listeners?
So it's generally a book that I really enjoyed reading. It was a very tough one, but a very funny one at the same time. You may have heard about A Bit of a Stretch, The Diaries of a Prisoner, written by Chris Atkins.
Okay, I've heard of it. I've not read it.
In 2 sentences, it's a well-to-do guy who is cheating a little bit the taxman,
Right.
and he goes to court in a suit and believes that he will just be fined and sent back home in the evening. Actually, he was sent directly to jail for 3 years.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
True story.
It's absolutely true story. Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
wow.
And I read that during the lockdown. And during the lockdown, probably you were in the same situation. You were locked up in your house in one room, working in front of a computer with very little human interaction. You couldn't get out unless you were prime minister and you could cycle. Otherwise, you were locked in your house. And I was complaining on the phone. I said, "Oh, I'm in a prison. It's awful. I can't escape. I feel miserable." And then I read this book, and it made me conscious of the privilege I have to be free, to be in good health, and to be with friends and family who care. And I think this is to be cherished every moment. So it's a great book to read because it's funny. You will laugh from the start to the end. But it's also talking about the very tough conditions in our prisons and how we treat our inmates. And it makes you reflect on the importance of, as I said, being free, being healthy, and being with your family.
And things you take for granted. And I think gratitude is something that people maybe need to practice more, because when you actually think about what you're grateful for, it shifts your focus really quickly, Renaud, doesn't it? I think it puts you in a different mentality very quickly.
Yeah.
Well, look, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. I certainly did.
Yes.
But thank you so much for coming on the Tech Leaders podcast, Renaud. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Thanks for the opportunity. I really enjoyed the conversation as well.
That interview didn't really play out the way I expected. It also didn't play out the way Renaud expected. He told me afterwards that he was pleasantly surprised by the organic nature of the conversation, which was really nice. I'm not particularly good at following scripts anyway, so it's probably just as well. I don't believe we've had a CFO on before. I could be wrong, but I don't think we have. And what a great introduction to that line of work this was. All leaders are pretty much tech leaders nowadays anyway, I suppose. Once again, it was very difficult to draw attention to a single aspect. There was so many important, profound, and entertaining things that we talked about. Renaud's a very interesting guy. But I have to say, the one thing that will really stay with me was his take on good leadership. Renaud's take on good leadership was absolutely fantastic. So essentially, it was along the lines of achieve mastery of the basics of your own life. And then if you just get those basics right, everything else essentially stems and then proliferates from there. I think that's the core message of this conversation. It's very powerful and just something I thought I'd draw attention to. I really hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed doing it. Thank you so much for tuning in and also for supporting the show. This episode was brought to you by Be Digital. Be Digital support leadership teams to optimize cost and get more out of technology investments. Be Digital and the team have unrivaled expertise with technology license management and data remediation, and are therefore perfectly positioned to help prepare organizations for AI technology capability. And on the last point, Be Digital have just developed a cutting-edge AI readiness assessment, which provides tech leaders with a platform they need to make well-informed decisions about AI adoption strategy in 2024 and beyond. Go to Be Digital UK to find out more and get in touch.